access to. We have 532 million tons of resource in the ground, and that was based on our last mineral resource estimate. And as anyone can work out, it's quite a substantial volume of resource.
For decades, one resource has quietly powered all of modern technology. It's the secret ingredient in everything from the smartphone in your hand to the most advanced fighter jets in the sky. And for just as long, one nation, China, has held a virtual monopoly on it, a silent, powerful weapon in the global struggle for dominance. As of early 2025, Beijing still controls the processing of a staggering 90% of these vital materials, a chokehold it has not been afraid to use. But that reality, a reality that has defined our entire technological landscape, might be about to shatter. Because halfway across the world, a discovery has been made. In the fertile, rolling hills of Uganda, geologists have confirmed one of the world's largest deposits of this critical resource. It's a discovery so immense, estimated at over 500 million tons, that it could single-handedly break China's stranglehold. This isn't just another mine. We're talking about a geopolitical earthquake. As the world's superpowers scramble for a piece of this multi-billion-dollar prize, the real question isn't just about who wins the race to Uganda's doorstep. The real question is whether the nation of Uganda itself is about to be blessed with a generation of prosperity, or cursed by the very treasure buried beneath its soil. So, what are these miracle materials? They're called rare earth elements, or REEs, and the name is a bit of a lie. They aren't all that rare in the Earth's crust, but finding them in concentrations that are actually profitable to mine is another story. They're a group of 17 metallic elements with unique magnetic, luminescent, and electrochemical properties. Don't think of them as commodities. Think of them as vitamins for technology. Without a tiny pinch of neodymium and praseodymium, you don't get the powerful, lightweight magnets that make electric vehicle motors spin and wind turbines work. Without a dash of terbium and dysprosium, the guidance systems in precision missiles and drones are dead in the water. Yttrium and europium. They're what made the bright red colors pop on your old TV screen. These elements are, with no exaggeration, the atomic foundation of our high-tech world. And for the last 30 years, the global supply chain for them has started and ended in one place, China. Now, this wasn't some stroke of geological luck. It was a cold, calculated, long-term strategic vision. As the rest of the world offshored its heavy industry, happy to get rid of the dirty, complex process of mineral refining, China leaned in. Deng Xiaoping, the architect of modern China, put it bluntly back in 1992. The Middle East has oil. China has rare earths. It was a declaration of intent, and Beijing spent the next few decades making it an undeniable reality. This has left countries like the United States in a terrifyingly tight spot. The US military's most advanced hardware, from the F-35 Lightning E fighter jet, which needs nearly half a ton of rare earths, to the Virginia-class submarines prowling the ocean depths, is critically dependent on a supply chain controlled by its main geopolitical rival. It's a massive Achilles heel. A dependency that Washington has been desperately, and often unsuccessfully, trying to fix for over a decade. And then came the news from Uganda, specifically from a place called the Makuutu Project, spanning the districts of Mayuge and Bujiri. Led by an Australian company, Ionic Rare Earths, the find is staggering. But it's not just the size that has the world's attention. It's the type of deposit. Makuutu is an ionic adsorption clay deposit, which sounds complicated, but it basically means it's geologically similar to the very mines in southern China that gave Beijing its global dominance. These clays are cheaper to mine and easier to process than the hard rock mines found elsewhere. Even better, the Makuutu basket of minerals is exceptionally rich in the most valuable elements of all, the heavy rare earths. These are the dysprosiums and terbiums crucial for high-performance magnets that work in extreme temperatures, something that's non-negotiable for defense and aerospace. With China tightening its export controls on these exact elements in early 2025, the Makutu discovery didn't just feel timely. It felt like a strategic lifeline. All of a sudden, a project in East Africa has become the focus of a global power struggle, a potential answer to America's prayers, and a direct challenge to China's long-held dominance. So, why is this Uganda discovery such a bombshell? To get it, you have to understand the fortress China has built over the last 30 years. This wasn't an accidental monopoly, it was built brick by deliberate brick. The story of China's rare earth supremacy is a masterclass in long-term strategy, economic warfare, and geopolitical foresight. It all started back in the 80s and kicked into high gear in the 90s. As Western nations brought in stricter environmental laws and faced higher labor costs, the messy, often toxic business of mining and separating rare earths became unpopular and expensive. The Mountain Pass mine in California, once the world's top producer, just couldn't compete. China didn't see a problem. It saw the opportunity of a lifetime. With huge state subsidies, cheap labor, and back then, a near-total disregard for the environment, Chinese companies flooded the market. They systematically undercut every other producer on the planet, driving prices so low that mines from America to Australia were forced to close. By the early 2000s, the competition was toast. China wasn't just the biggest player, it was pretty much the only player. But the real genius wasn't just in the mining. It was conquering the entire supply chain. You see, mining is just step one. The real challenge, and where the real value lies, is in the processing. After the ore is dug up, it has to be cracked and separated. This is a horrendously complex chemical process where you try to untangle all 17 rare earths from each other. It requires hundreds of separation tanks, a nasty cocktail of acids and solvents, and it produces a lot of toxic waste. While the West was turning its back on this dirty work, China mastered it. They poured billions into research. They built sprawling industrial parks just for rare earth processing. Today, China's control over mining stands at around 69% of global output. Dominant, but not total. However, its control over the vital midstream processing and refining stage is a near-monopolistic 90%. This means that even if a country like the US or Australia mines its own rare earths, it often has to send the raw material to China for the final, critical steps. It's like growing your own wheat, only to send it to your rival to be milled into flour, giving them ultimate control over your bread supply. And China has shown it's more than willing to weaponize that control. The world got a brutal wake-up call in 2010. After a maritime incident near the disputed Senkaku Islands, Beijing cut off all rare earth exports to Japan, crippling its tech and auto sectors. The move sent shockwaves through global markets. It was a clear signal. China saw its rare earth monopoly not just as an economic tool, but as a powerful instrument of foreign policy. This wasn't a one-off. The threat has been a constant hum in the background of geopolitics. Amid the escalating tech war with the US, Beijing has repeatedly hinted it could cut off supplies to American defense contractors. These aren't empty threats. In 2023, China put export controls on gallium and germanium, two metals vital for semiconductors. Then, in early 2025, it restricted exports on several heavy rare earths and the technology to make rare earth magnets. A direct shot at the West's most sensitive industries. The message from Beijing couldn't be clearer. This is a weapon, and we're not afraid to use it. For the Pentagon and Western policymakers, this is a five-alarm fire. A 2024 report from a US Select Committee on China noted the terrifying dependency. While the US imports around 70% of its rare earth ores from China, the situation is far worse for the finished product. Over 90% of the separated, high-purity rare earths America needs are processed in China. Every Tomahawk missile, every spy satellite, relies on this Chinese-controlled supply chain. This isn't some theoretical problem anymore. It's an active and present danger to national security. The world's greatest military power has found its foundations resting on quicksand, with its biggest rival holding the power to wash it all away. Faced with the stark reality of China's stranglehold, the United States has spent the last 15 years in a slow-motion panic attack, desperately trying to rebuild a domestic supply chain it willingly threw away decades earlier. This American awakening has been a painful, expensive, and often frustrating journey, teaching the hard lesson that catching up to China is a monumental task. If you want a poster child for this struggle, look no further than the Mountain Pass mine in California. It was the world's leader during the Cold War, but was shut down in the early 2000s, crushed by China's low prices. It was revived in the early 2010s by a company called Corp, riding a wave of political urgency after the 2010 China-Japan crisis. It was hailed as America's great hope, but the project was a mess of technical problems and collapsing prices heavily influenced by China's market manipulation. The fatal flaw, though, was processing. Corp could dig the ore out of the ground, but it couldn't do the complex refining needed to separate the elements. For a while, it was forced to ship its concentrate to, you guessed it, China. It was the perfect, painful illustration of America's problem. Even when the minerals were right under its own feet, the dependency remained. By 2015, Corp was bankrupt. The Great American Revival had collapsed. The mine is running again under new ownership, and with a lot of government cash, it's slowly rebuilding its processing power. But the Corp saga was a sobering lesson. Digging rocks out of the ground isn't enough. Real independence means mastering the entire chain, from mine to magnet. This creeping sense of crisis in Washington has finally spurred some real action. During a Senate hearing in mid-2025, the mood was unified and alarmed, with both parties calling it a national security crisis. This led to the creation of the Mineral Security Partnership, or MSP. It's basically a buyer's club of allied nations: the UK, Japan, South Korea, Australia, the EU, with one goal: fast-track credible, non-Chinese sources of critical minerals. The MSP plans to use public-private financing and diplomatic muscle to de-risk strategic mining projects around the world. It's the West's best shot at building a parallel supply chain, insulating its economies from Chinese pressure. But it's a massive uphill battle. China has a 30-year head start. Western companies face hurdles their state-backed Chinese rivals don't. Getting a permit for a new mine in the West can take a decade. Financing is tough because mineral prices are so volatile. And maybe most importantly, there's a huge skills gap. A whole generation of Western engineers who knew how to do this stuff has retired, while China has cultivated an army of experts. And this desperation is exactly why the Makuutu project in Uganda suddenly looks so good to the West. It seems almost tailor-made to solve the West's problems. First off, the geology is a gift. As an ionic clay deposit, Makuutu's minerals can be extracted with a simpler, cheaper heap leaching process. This avoids the massive costs and complexity of hard rock mining, making the project more financially sound and quicker to start. Even more important is what's in the deposit. It's uniquely rich in those heavy rare earths that are mostly found in southern China and Myanmar. These elements, dysprosium, terbium, yttrium, are the secret sauce in the most advanced military and green energy tech. A long-term source of these specific elements outside of China's control would be an absolute game-changer. The Australian operator, Ionic Rare Earths, points out that Makuutu's mineral basket has one of the highest concentrations of these critical heavy rare earths ever found. And maybe most importantly, the project is strategically aligned with the West. The company has made it clear its product is not promised to China and is actively pitching Makuutu as a cornerstone for a new Western supply chain. They're already in talks with the Mineral Security Partnership. Better yet, Ionic Rare Earths isn't just planning to ship raw dirt. It's already built a demonstration plant on site and is exploring building its own refineries outside of China, maybe in the US or UK. This fits perfectly with the West's goal of building a complete supply chain, secure from its rival. In a world of few good options, Makuutu has become a beacon of hope. A mining license has already been granted. It's geologically blessed, and its output is exactly what the US and its allies desperately need. For a West that has been searching for a silver bullet, the red-brown clays of eastern Uganda look tantalizingly close. We're about to get to the heart of it. What does all this geopolitical chess mean for Uganda itself? Because a discovery like this can build a nation, or it can break it. If you're getting value out of this breakdown, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us keep digging into the stories that connect the powerful and the powerless across the globe. A multi-billion-dollar discovery, with the world's two biggest superpowers knocking at the door. This should be Uganda's winning lottery ticket, right? The dawn of a new era for the Pearl of Africa. But on a continent whose history is a graveyard of resource booms gone wrong, the answer is terrifyingly complicated. For Uganda, this discovery isn't just a prize, it's a test. Will this buried treasure be a blessing that lifts the nation, or a curse that rips open old wounds? This brings us to a grim concept in economics: the resource curse. It's a cruel paradox where countries with incredible natural wealth, oil, diamonds, minerals, often end up with less economic growth, more corruption, and more conflict than countries with less. The sudden flood of money from one source can twist a nation's economy and its politics. History is littered with examples. Think of Nigeria's oil wealth, which fueled staggering corruption and environmental ruin while doing little to end poverty. Think of the blood diamonds of Sierra Leone and Angola that paid for brutal civil wars instead of schools and hospitals. Or look at the Democratic Republic of Congo, a country with arguably the richest mineral deposits on Earth. Yet it remains one of the poorest and most unstable nations, its wealth extracted amidst unimaginable suffering. The resource curse works in sneaky ways. The flood of foreign money from mineral exports can make the local currency too strong, killing off other sectors like farming and manufacturing. Politics becomes a brutal game focused only on who controls the money spigot. The huge profits create massive incentives for corruption, as elites and foreign companies conspire to pocket the cash, leaving little for the public. This is the heavy history hanging over Uganda's big discovery. Uganda is a country with immense potential, but it also has real challenges with governance and corruption. Now, it has to manage a windfall that could either launch its development into orbit or entrench its worst problems. But here's where things could be different. The Ugandan government, under President Yoweri Museveni, says it wants a clean break from the past. There's a new mood across Africa, a refusal to accept the old model of just shipping raw dirt overseas for pennies on the dollar.
I said over my dead body, I have banned all the export of unprocessed minerals from here. Let them stay in the ground. When the grandchildren come, they will get them out.
The new mantra is Value Addition. Uganda's Mining and Minerals Act of 2022 and its national strategy are all about local processing and refining. The government has already banned the export of several unprocessed minerals to force the issue. As President Museveni has said, when you export raw materials, you are also exporting jobs. This push for beneficiation is Uganda's main defense against the resource curse. By insisting that some of the rare earth processing, the most valuable part of the chain, happens on Ugandan soil, the country could capture more profits, create skilled jobs, and get new technology. The ambition is huge: to grow the economy tenfold, from around $50 billion today to $500 billion by 2040, with minerals at the core of that plan. But it won't be easy. Building refineries takes huge investment, stable energy, good infrastructure, and a skilled workforce, all major hurdles for Uganda. This is where the geopolitical competition might actually help. Both the US and China need what Uganda has, which gives the government leverage. It can demand that any deal includes real commitments to building local capacity. Then there are the human and environmental costs. The Makutu project is in a densely populated farming region. People will have to be relocated. The mining company has promised to do right by the community, and Ugandan law says a share of royalties must go to local governments. But making sure that happens is a huge test of governance. And there are environmental risks. The plan to extract the rare earths uses acidified heap leaching. While simpler than other methods, it's risky. If it's not managed perfectly, acid and heavy metals could contaminate local soil and water, which would be devastating. Uganda's environmental agency has a massive job to do, but will it have the power to stand up to a project this important to the national economy? These aren't side issues. They are central to whether this project helps or hurts the people of Uganda. Uganda is at a historic crossroads. It has a resource the world is desperate for. It has a government saying all the right things about avoiding the mistakes of the past. And it has the leverage of two rival superpowers. Yet, the shadow of the resource curse is long, and the path from mineral wealth to human development is a tightrope. The red earth of Uganda has become the newest chessboard in the 21st century's great game. The players are familiar: a dominant China, trying to protect its strategic monopoly, and a desperate United States, leading a Western alliance trying to break free. The prize is a group of minerals that will define the future of technology, from green energy to the next generation of war. And caught in the middle is Uganda, holding a ticket that could lead to incredible wealth or incredible strife. And the scramble is on. It's about more than just mining contracts. It's a competition played out with infrastructure loans, diplomatic deals, and security partnerships. China, through its Belt and Road Initiative, has spent 2 decades building roads, ports, and political goodwill across Africa. The US is now playing catch-up, using tools like the Mineral Security Partnership and projects like the Lobito Corridor to offer a different, Western-backed path. Both sides will be in Kampala, making offers that promise not just to take resources, but to build a nation. For Uganda, this moment of intense focus presents 2 possible futures: using the billions in royalties to diversify the economy, building schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. Environmental rules are strictly enforced, and local communities become real partners. In this future, Uganda doesn't just get rich, it gets developed. It breaks the resource curse and becomes a model for the continent. Then there is Path B, the curse. In this darker future, the old patterns repeat. The pressure and the money overwhelm weak institutions. Deals are cut in secret, enriching a small elite, while the nation's wealth is sold on the cheap. The promises of local processing are watered down or delayed forever. Environmental safeguards fail, leaving a legacy of contaminated land and water. The discovery, instead of uniting the nation, becomes a source of conflict and resentment. In this future, Uganda becomes just another cautionary tale. Right now, both of these futures are on the table. Nothing is written yet. The outcome will be decided by the choices made in Kampala, in the deals negotiated in Washington and Beijing, and by the vigilance of the Ugandan people themselves. The world is watching. The story is just beginning. So, what do you think? Can Uganda break the resource curse and leverage this discovery into lasting prosperity? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to keep exploring the critical stories shaping our world, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next investigation.